In this video, I'm going to talk about my Lionsteel L.E.One, which is a full-size karambit with MagnaCut blade steel, gorgeously milled integral Framelock construction, plus an Emerson Wave opener. Hey everyone, welcome to Salvo EDC. If you wanna see my short videos, check me out on social media, where I also post my coolest knife pictures every day. And if you follow me already, you've probably seen my April Fool's reel just about a week ago, when I prepped frozen pineapple pizza with this authentic Italian knife. But what could I say? This karambit was a big disappointment as it had a revolutionary design and premium materials, but all these were ruined by a garbage build quality. So let's start today's review with my issue, because probably that's the part that everybody wants to hear about. Specifically, why I had to insult a whole nation with frozen pineapple pizza. When this Lionsteel L.E.One arrived, it was a useless piece of crap right out of the box. And yes, the factory edge did in fact suck, but I have a lot more to unpack here on top of casual nitpicking. As this knife came with a stripped pivot screw, and it also had a dangerously weak detent, to such an extent that the blade literally opened itself under its very own weight. And even though it disappointed me to receive a malfunctioning knife, I handled the situation like an adult. And after the 1-month return window expired, I tried to file a warranty request on their website, hoping they would fix my knife, and guess what they did? They did not respond. As a last resort, I even sent them an email about my info, address, and a copy of my bill, asking for at least a pivot screw and a detent ball so I could fix the knife on my own. But after all, Lionsteel just kept ignoring my problem, and this treatment was the trigger that made me angry. I don't know whether or not you've seen that specific Joe X video when he pissed on a Topps warranty card, and now I was in the mood to do the same with this Lionsteel. But I decided to skip it, because I just love my channel way too much. Because this very attractive looking piece of junk has a €240 price tag, and US retailers usually sell it for about $200, so it's definitely not a budget knife. For the exact same price, I could have got myself a Spyderco PM2 that actually works, but this crappy Lionsteel karambit was completely useless. And even now, after 6 months of waiting, I still haven't heard from Lionsteel. So after waiting like half a year, I decided to fix the knife myself. I reached for my toolbox and I punched this hole on the pivot screw one size larger. Then I fully disassembled the L.E.One and changed the detent ball. I cleaned and lubed everything. Then I reassembled the karambit and voila, now it kinda works. Funny that I could perfectly solve both the pivot and the detent issues, and now those work amazing, but for some strange reason the centering is now way off, and I do not understand why. And even though the detent is now nice and strong, the knife's action still makes a cheap plastic sound every time this aluminum log bar kicks in. By the time I got to this point, I had already spent 2 hours repairing my karambit, and I just simply decided to leave it this way because this is still the best performance I could get out of it. And since the L.E.One has a screwless integral body, my possibilities for adjustments ran out anyways. However, despite my underwhelming experience, I will still review this knife and stay as unbiased as I humanly can because I still have some exciting features that I'm just itching to share with my audience. So, the Lionsteel L.E.One was designed by Ernest Emerson. It comes with a MagnaCut blade that you can open at least 100 different ways. It has a gorgeously anodized integral aluminum body. It's a truly sweet package on paper. And this karambit had all the chance to become something I would have carried for a long time. Because I love a good Framelock, and I was on the fence to finally get this one with an integral construction. It also comes with a removable flipper tab. Plus, it has a weirdly shaped opening hole. And of course the Emerson Wave that is finally after so many years doesn't have a sharp tip. I hated the old school pointy Emerson Wave because it ripped up my pants all the time. But this new one is a lot more gentle and it has all the benefits without any negatives. It also works as a front flipper and then it also turns into a thumb ramp as you hold the karambit in a traditional grip. The blade itself is also very interesting as it looks a bit different from mainstream karambits, not only because of the wave feature, but also because of this altered tip, which guarantees extra strength and tweaks the angle at which the knife starts cutting into things. And I really enjoy this tip design, as it gives me much needed depth control, which was always an infamous weakness of Hawkbill style karambit blades. And of course the L.E.One comes with MagnaCut steel, which is a very sought after thing these days. Don't get me wrong, I totally get all the hype. However, I have some complaints about this specific Lionsteel. First of all, the factory edge was not very sharp on this knife, plus the grind is too chunky and thick behind the edge. So even after some reprofiling, this knife still feels like a sharpened pry bar. the hogbill geometry allows it to perform somewhat okay, as this angular blade shape prevents stuff from escaping, but still, this knife is not a good slicer. So geometry was my first complaint. My second complaint is the actual edge holding capability. On paper, properly heat-treated MagnaCut should have a lot better edge retention compared to this Lionsteel MagnaCut. Unfortunately, this is a very common problem with fresh steel recipes like this one, as companies still could not figure out how to properly cook this steel. And I think this is definitely something that has to be remedied in the future, not only at Lionsteel, but also at many other companies who mass-produce MagnaCut blades. The good news is that low hardness MagnaCut still comes with pretty good toughness, and of course it is also extremely rust-proof. And these two attributes fit very nicely on a big ass karambit with an Emerson Wave that most people will carry for self-defense, because such a knife would probably benefit from its blade not rusting and not snapping in half. And not having the best edge retention actually does not break this knife, because it would probably not get used that much in heavy work. But in the very few, if any situations it actually would get used, toughness is a much bigger deal. And if we already talk about self-defense, I would not underestimate the significance of rust resistance either, as most of the time this karambit must be kept concealed under multiple layers of clothing and close to the body, which is a salty and moist environment. And this highly forgiving combination of aluminum and MagnaCut makes the Lionsteel L.E.One a very low maintenance and completely rust resistance package for the job. Carrying around and deciphering this karambit makes me wish for MagnaCut on my other tactical folders. For example, I have this Hogue EX5 Auto that also has a fully aluminum construction and a CPM 154 blade steel. I love this knife a lot, but I must admit that MagnaCut would be a clear improvement over CPM 154. And in my opinion, MagnaCut will definitely appear a lot more in the future, especially on tactical pocket knives. Companies just need to find the right heat treatment. I also truly enjoy the idea of these aluminum scales, as they are strong, light, and they are fairly cheap, especially compared to titanium. And they can also get milled into this integral Framelock shape, and seeing a biggest karambit with absolutely zero body screws is just super satisfying. I'm happy this knife exists in this particular form, because the integral scales also mean that the karambit ring itself has been cut from the very same piece of metal as the rest of the handle. This way the Lionsteel L.E.One became a very nice and hand-feeling knife with absolutely zero hotspots. These aluminum scales have just a few minor disadvantages I can think of. First of all, they are somewhat slippery, which was just slightly counterbalanced by this rectangular texturing that makes this knife look like it was a keto-friendly chocolate bar. And second of all, over time they will give up their coating. But as an exchange, anodized aluminum can be colored in all kinds of crazy ways. So aluminum definitely has its pros and cons, but overall this is a pretty nice material because it also eliminates the need for steel liners. And if the lock would function as intended, this Lionsteel could become one of my favorite knives that ever existed. If I have a karambit, especially one that I plan to use for self-defense, having a secure locking mechanism is extremely important. The key here is to make the knife straightforward and reliable. It is giving me the creeps whenever I come across a button lock or a weird-ass bellison karambit, because in a serious situation most fidget-friendly locks just become liabilities. On the other hand, in situations where fidget knives usually fail, frame locks just get even stronger. And you can also see when I squeeze this karambit hard, that my hand makes it even more difficult for the lock to disengage. This is why a frame lock mechanism thrives in a so-called tactical scenario, in contrast to a button lock, which could easily fail and cut off all of our fingers if we don't pay attention. This is why I think twice every time I pick up a tactical folder, and over the years I could only find just a handful of knives that I actually trust. For example, this is a CRKT Provoke that comes with a kinematic movement and it folds up on itself instead of opening like a traditional knife. And this fundamental change makes it a lot safer than the vast majority of karambits out there. Probably even safer than this Framelock Lionsteel. Or I could also pull up this previously shown Hogue EX5, which is a button-actuated auto folder that I can turn into a quote-unquote fixed blade by actuating this two-stage safety toggle. If you wanna know more about this knife, you should hit subscribe because I will drop its review sometime in the next 2 weeks. And until that video arrives, I invite you to check out this previous one where I showcase my top 5 tactical fixed blades for 2024. It also has some honorable mentions, so make sure you won't miss out. Thank you for watching my video all the way, and I'll see you in the next one.